Well, today is a grim anniversary, 20 years since the horrific Boxing Day tsunami, a day many of us will still remember vividly. The devastation from the tsunami was absolutely horrific. More than 227,000 people killed, including 26 Australians. It's believed to have been the deadliest tsunami in human history. Joining me is journalist Charles Miranda, who travelled to Thailand in the aftermath of the tsunami. Charles, thanks for your time tonight. Take us back to when you visited the scene of the tsunami and just talk me through the devastation you saw firsthand.
James, it was absolute. I mean, it was as far as the eye can see of devastation. I mean, you know, where there were once houses and shops and shop fronts and markets and all the rest of it was literally nothing. You know, there was patrol boat 813, which we later found out was 1 nautical mile offshore. At the end of the tsunami, it was 2 kilometres inland. And that ship is still there today, the Navy patrol boat, the 813. I mean, it's that level of devastation. If you can imagine that 2 kilometres from the shoreline, it was pushing houses, pushing whole ships, fishing vessels and all the rest of it. It was pure devastation. There's nothing ever like it.
Yeah, I wanted to know, when you arrived there, I guess, you know, you go to events with preconceptions as to what you're going to encounter. Were you prepared for what you saw, and how did it affect you personally?
No, look, I was in Vietnam, and so you know the reports were starting to come through that there was some sort of tsunami. The tsunami warning, as you know, went up and down the entire coastline. In fact, you know, such was the magnitude of the tsunami, the world literally jumped by 10 millimeters that day, and it was felt in Alaska on the other side of the world. And so the warnings went out all throughout the coastline of Vietnam, and obviously ground zero was down in Aceh in Indonesia and also Thailand. So I rang work and said, is this huge? It sounds pretty huge. And by that stage, reports were coming through. Yes, it's big. You know, you need to get there. I was on holidays, but they said, if you don't mind going down there and seeing what was there. Flying in, obviously, the airport was barely workable, but the airstrip was clear. Obviously, they had to clear it to start allowing for the C-130s and other humanitarian aid to come through. But again, the devastation was immense. And also the people. I mean, let's not forget, 250,000 people died. Many tens of thousands just within Thailand. I mean, I was in Khao Lak. There were 4,000 locals lost there. They think it could be up to 14,000. Of course, a lot of the workers were from Burma and not registered. They were just illegal migrants working the fields and so forth. And the mentality of the people, I think, was what really struck me. I mean, you know, the blank faces, no one can really talk. It was just absolute horror. A lot of tears by all those around you, and a lot of, I mean, you don't get the sort of aid that you would in a Western country. So you haven't got counsellors there immediately to talk to these people. And some of the things they were thinking and saying is, you know, I remember one woman, there was concrete steps to a house, but there was no house there. There was just a deep pit, and there was a pump running to pump water out. And she was sitting on that front step saying, "I'm just waiting for my husband to come home." And initially I thought, well, maybe he's getting supplies or something. And, you know, where is he? Oh, he's here behind me. And obviously the mentality of her thinking that he was just going to emerge once the water was pumped out. And she was saying, yeah, the water will go down and he'll come back out to me and sit with me. I'm preparing his lunch. Would you like to join us? And it's that sort of thing. So, you know, it was harrowing from a personal perspective.
I mean, obviously, that's just a tragic story. I admire journos like yourself who can go to those places. How do you focus on doing your job, which is to report to the world what's happened without being so personally caught up and affected by it that you're just unable to, I don't know, function? I would really struggle in a situation like that.
Look, you're certainly nervous to events around you and those emotions around you, but you've got a job to do, and that's to report to the rest of the world. They want to know what's going on, and you want to do your job, and so you just go for however long it takes, days, In this case, it was weeks, and get on with it. And you do become involved in the story. There was a young Swedish family, and very tragically and sadly, they lost their children. And they asked me, "Can you help look for them?" And I'm like, "Well, of course. If I see anybody, I'll." And they were showing me photos of their children, and they pointed to this makeshift morgue and said, "No, can you go look for them in there?" And it's kind of obviously not my role. I'm not a professional in that sense to do that, but I would have gone through 100 body bags that day looking for their loved ones and just looking for blonde hair. Really, that's all you could do, and to report back for them. So you do become involved in the story. You try not to be. You don't want to be the story, but obviously you're a human being as well, and you want to help anyone who's in need, and especially for that family who were very much in need and very traumatized.